Hello everyone, my name is Phil Saris and I just wanted to create a short tutorial video showing you some of the features of Pearson MyMathLab that are available for students and parents to view as you get ready to start your homework through MyMathLab and get ready to study for tests and do things like that. So the first thing you're going to see here is the login screen. So if you go to mymathlabforschool.com, you can sign in, and I'm going to sign in using my ID. And what's going to come up is the student view. So actually this is the teacher view, but when I click on Pre-Calculus 3, for example, your student would be immediately logged into their math class. This is the dashboard that they will see. Just because I'm a teacher, up here in the Manage portion, I would have to go through and go into the teacher portal, but this is the student portal that they see. And I have a couple of things already queued up to look at today, but what they're immediately going to see is their What to Work on Next section here in the middle, and that's going to give them what's coming up, what's due, and it tells them what's due and how many hours they have yet to do it. So that's the home page. What they're going to be concerned with is either clicking on the link here on the What to Work on Next, or to go to the homework section over here on this navigation bar. It's going to give them a list of their homework assignments here, and I'm just going to click on one as an example to show you what they're going to see. What they see when they click on this is exactly what you're seeing here. It gives them the name of the homework, the due date, and their current score. This program is going to keep track of the answers that they get correct as they go, and so even if they have to stop and come back and log in later, it's going to give them, you are at 78% out of 19. Well, if you've only done 16 of the problems, it's going to keep track of your score that you currently have. Currently, we have it set at 3 attempts per question, and so as they go through, they can just click on one of the questions. I'll just show you what it looks like. This is all going to be done through their iPad, can also be completed on a desktop computer, but they're going to see a question that looks like this. It depends on what the question type is, but there are some where they have to input the answer. There are some multiple choice, there are some yes or no, there are some with multiple parts, but this is going to give you a general view of what they're looking at. So it says determine whether the formula determines y as a function of x. Gives them a yes or no. For this particular problem, I have decided as the teacher that they need to show work. Not on all problems, but on many, many, many problems, probably most of their problems for most of their math classes, there's going to be a show work section. And what's going to happen is they're going to need to show work to get full credit for their answers. When I pull up the show work pane, this is what pops up. Now obviously I'm on a computer right now. It's a little bit tricky to try to write in this box, but on the iPad it actually works pretty well. One of the things that students have expressed concern with is, how do I make sure that I can show my work and it's not technology getting in the way? One of the other features that they have is this button here that they can insert a picture from their homework. So if they want to write on a piece of notebook paper or take a screenshot through Notability, they can insert that picture as their work and that will show up on there. So as we get into this showing the work section, there are a couple of different ways that they can do it. I'm going to close this box out. I am not going to save that work because it doesn't necessarily matter. It says, yes, I want to close. It wasn't asking me to save. Okay, so that's the basic questioning setup. What they also have available to them many times, not all times, but many times, is this question help section. And all of the options here are going to give them great tutorials about these questions. Each of the questions is randomly generated. And so two students that are sitting next to each other working on question number 1 are going to have determined whether the formula determines y as a function of x, but there's going to be different functions underneath that problem. And so they're going to be working on a similar problem, but not the same problem. This helps them truly comprehend even when they're working with friends. There's a help me solve this, view an example. They can link immediately to the textbook. They can send me an email, or they can print it out to work on it on paper. I'm just going to show you the help me solve this section. In the help me solve this section, notice they're giving this exact same question. But as we continue on, it's sort of giving them the leading questions that a teacher might. Is it true that for any choice of x in the domain, etc., etc.? And so as they answer these questions, it's going to give them some questions to think about. And if they get it wrong, they're going to ask them to think about some other things. So that would be yes. And so as it leads them through this, that's going to give them some really good help and some really good tips on what to do for this particular problem. Another example they can do is they can view an example. One that is not the same, but actually looks a lot like it. And so as they continue on, it gives them some steps to try. Okay, so as we do in our notes, our examples that we write down in class, this is going to give them yet another example of how exactly to put in this answer and exactly how to solve this problem. So that's the view and example section. Also, there's, you can obviously link to the textbook. It's going to pull up this e-text. This is their textbook for the class. This is one way to get to it. I'll show you another way to get to it. But it will load up this e-textbook that can be viewed on their device. So as it loads, you're going to see at the top here all the tools, and they can highlight, they can put the pin in there so they can come back to it later. But this takes them immediately to the section that talks about section 1.2, exactly what we're talking about in class. They can scroll through the pages, so they actually do have a textbook. So if they're working and needing extra examples, even at the end of these sections, they can scroll through and they can come to the end just like in a typical math book. They've got examples that are worked out, all of the topics here. I'm actually going to jump over a couple pages here and show you one of the features of the textbook, because like any other textbook, it has practice problems in the back. These typically would have been assigned as the homework. But they can go to the end of these sections, and obviously this is a fairly lengthy section. But they can go to the end of this section and they can find extra problems to practice if they need that. I'm going to show you another example of where they can get extra practice, but here at the end is the typical problem set from a math book. And so that's kind of the homework in a nutshell. Many options for getting help, including emailing the teacher saying, hey, I had problems with number 1. And again, we are always available to help them with the homework questions that they may have. So that's the homework section. As we continue down here, I'm going to show you a couple of other things. I want to show you specifically this study plan. And one of the features of the study plan is it gives them unlimited practice problems where it will tell them if they're getting the question wrong or if they're getting it right. It'll give them the same options as they have with the view an example and solve me. And so anytime they're needing to practice a section, say they've got a quiz coming up or a test, they can always practice for these assessments. I'm going to widen this out because I want to show you this view progress up here. And what it gives them is a plan. So if we're in chapter 1 and we're currently working on section 1.2, which is the example that I've been giving you, each point of 1.2, so only in 1.2 we're learning these 5 things. So identifying functions, identifying domain and range, analyzing continuity, etc., etc. I could practice these, practice problems from these. And many of these are going to be like the homework questions or the test questions that they have. Well, you're going to notice, determine whether the formula determines y as a function of x. It's a very similar problem to what we were solving. And so as they get ready to study for that quiz or that test, they have an example right here that will be automatically graded as they go through it. So yes, I got that part right. Okay? And so then it's going to go through, is y defined as a function of x, yes or no? And so that practice is unlimited. They can keep going back in. Also in the study plan, they can also do a quiz me option, which is going to give them those mastery points. Now mastery points, we don't use it for any sort of credit here, but they can sort of feel good about mastering a given concept when they practice it and they quiz me. They can say, yes, I do know how to identify functions. I do know how to determine boundedness, but maybe I need some help on analyzing continuity. So they can really target exactly what they need to do using the quiz me and the practice and find out, do I know this or not? A couple of other things. Gradebook, this is where they're going to go to see their grades. Mine's going to be pretty empty because I have not completed these homeworks as this in this view of this student that I'm, me as a student. Chapter contents. This is going to be their actual book, okay? And so if I, hit the table of contents here, and this boots up. I showed you a little bit about the book already, but you're going to notice that the interface is the same. This is the link to their book, and so if they need help finding some practice problems or defining words, things like that, I can go in here to chapter 1 and I can click on 1.1 and it takes me immediately to section 1.1. So that's the chapter contents menu option down here. One more thing, the tools for success. A lot of help here. In the review section, study tips, videos, practice workbook, student study guide. If I click on the videos here, let's say I missed section 1.1. Well, they have a video on section 1.1 that's going to teach me the lesson. again if I need to review it, or if I was absent, or for whatever reason I need to go back. Now obviously per book there's going to be different sections that have videos. So in this book, for example, in the pre-calculus book, there's a section video for 1.1 and 1.4, but 2 and 3 are not there. Well, in your book there may be one for each section. It just depends on the book. And so those videos are going to be extremely helpful. You'll notice this one's like 19 minutes long. So it's going to go pretty quickly through these examples, but it's going to give you that extra little boost that you need sometimes, maybe if you're absent or if you didn't quite catch it when you were in class. For this book, they also have graphing calculator help because that's a big component of this. There may be different things for different books. And so as we go through and we look at some of the options like the practice workbook, again, it's more practice given to them for the purpose of helping them understand and helping them comprehend. Again, this is like another little view of 1.2. There are tons of resources available through this book, and that's just a few of them as you go through here. And so I hope that if you have questions, you would email your son or daughter's teacher. I would hope that you would try to get in contact with us. We would love to try to help you. So I appreciate you watching, taking the time to look through this, and hopefully that it helped you a little bit understand what your child is looking at. And yes, in fact, they do need to be on their iPad for their math homework, but there are also many options available to help them with not only solving the problems, but also learning the content, which is ultimately our goal. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, let us know. Thanks.